Peace, family. This is Lions Den with another news and commentary. This is a big tragedy, and it shows that no matter where you go around the world, you still receive racism in no matter what country you live in. This incident happened in Sydney, Australia, when an Aboriginal man using Eric Garner in New York, when he said the exact same thing when police choked him to death, when he says, "I can't breathe." Well, this guy, this Aboriginal man, said the exact same thing. I'd like to thank this article to BuzzFeed. Thanks to BuzzFeed for, with this video. But this goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, no matter where you live at around the world, if you're a minority, whether you're black or whether you're Hispanic or any other minority, things will happen. And this remind you of Eric Garner. But this video I'm about to show you is graphic. And again, if you have kids, I suggest to tell the kids to, walk away for a little bit, because it's going to be, this video is too disturbing for them. With reactions. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to show you, this is in Sydney, Australia. And just remind you of what happened with Eric Garner in New York a couple of years ago. And this now happens in Sydney, Australia, with their police officers did what they did to this guy. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video, and I'm going to give you the rest of my commentary.
Comes from your man action team. I'm going to do a cell move on you right now. What I want you to do is come to the door, place your hands through the door. You're going to be handcuffed and move to another cell. Fail to comply with any of my directions may result in the use of force. Do you understand? I'll give you 1 minute to comply with my directions. Now 2:42 exactly. I'll give you 1 minute. I'll do that match again, bro. Stand in the middle of the cell, shaking up, shirt off, socks on. He's crouched over, waiting for you.
No water on himself. He's crouched over, ready to go.
The floor's dry. He's crouched over, waiting for us. He's moving up the back. The next one. I'll ping another 30 seconds, guys. We've got plenty of time. He's putting his shirt on.
Make sure the doors are open all the way down.
Yeah, they are. What are you saying?
Are the nurses watching the monitors?
I'm sure you don't pull me anyway. Just following
Putting his shirt over his face. Except for the nurse doing the needle, I want all Justice Health in their office out of the way.
And the door shut.
5 seconds, 4, 3, 2. David, my name is Man Action Team. What I want you to do is come to the door, place your hands through the hole.
Thank you.
As you're going to be cell moved and you get handcuffs on and moved. Do that now, or force may be used. Do that now. 1, 2, 3, go, go, go.
Stop resisting! Stop resisting! Stop resisting! Bring your arms around. Stop resisting! Bring your arms around now. Bring your arms around now. Give the officers your arms. What? Give the officers your arms. Give them your arms. Give the officers your arms. You know what I mean?
You're not.
Stop resisting.
Good God. I can't breathe.
Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. No.
What? Stop.
Stop resisting. Stop your resisting now.
Stop resisting, Kanye.
Stop resisting, mate.
Hey, watch his legs. Keep his head down.
Head down.
Yep. Keep his head down, boys.
Keep his head down.
You want to get into it? All right, keep his head down. Take an arm lock, take a wrist lock on the left arm. Get your move your arm around so the officer can get it. Stop his little thumb. No, you're not. All right, take a wrist lock. Yep. Dungo, we're now going to pick you up. Follow the instructions. All right, follow the instructions. Make sure you keep his head down.
Right, control the next one, just pick him up. Dungo. Get the right leg out so you can stand up.
You will stop yourself, Dungo.
Stop resisting with your feet. Stop resisting with your feet. Alright?
Bring his legs up.
Move your legs so you can stand up. You'll be bent down so you've been spinning. You keep your head down. Do not attempt to spin on anyone. We've got the leg in everything else.
Take a wrist to the left arm.
Stand up. Stand up. 1, 2, 3.
Put his head. Wrist lock.
Your head down.
Wrist lock.
Your head down.
Okay, let's walk in. You guys keep your head down. We got wrist locks, all right?
Stand up. Good.
Okay, guys, you saw the video. Okay, guys, you just saw the video of what happened. It happened in a prison in Sydney, Australia, with a young man named David Dungay, who was 26 when he died in custody. His family hope an inquest will bring answers and accountability. An Aboriginal man repeatedly yelled, "I can't breathe," as he was being held face down on a bed by prison officers. In the moments before he died, an inquest has heard. David Dungay was 26 when he died in Long Bay Hospital in Sydney, New South Wales on the afternoon of December 29, 2015. Footage recorded by handheld cameras show corrective service officers storming Dungay's cell, restraining him, and then a nurse injecting him with sedative after he refused to stop eating a pack of rice crackers. An inquest before Deputy State Coroner Derek Lee began on Monday morning in a new NSW Coroner's Court in Sydney CBD. Dungay's family and their supporters filled the large courtroom, many sporting bright red t-shirts calling for an honest inquest into his death. Outside court, they were supporting a representative from the U.S. Black Lives Matter movement, who drew parallels between the death of Dungay and the New York man Eric Garner, who was filmed saying, "I can't breathe," as police officers held him down before he died. Dungay was a Dungaley man born to parents Letoa Dungay and David Hill on October 2nd, 1989. He was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes around the age of 5 and grew up a sporty child playing rugby league, the court heard. At the time of his death, he was serving 9.5 years in prison for robbery, attempted aggravating sexual intercourse, and assault, occasionally bodily harm. Dungay suffered difficulties with management of his diabetes and also significant mental health problems while in custody. Records suggest he suffered a fairly serious psychosis during his time in custody, the court heard. In November 2015, after a number of concerning mental health evaluations, he was transferred to a Long Bay hospital as a mental health inpatient. Counsel assisting the coroner, Jason Dowling, told the court on the morning Dungay's death, his blood sugar level was checked by a nurse and were low in the morning, then at a high level by midday. Dungay went out to exercise yard that afternoon, and on the way back grabbed a pack of rice crackers that he had bought from the commissary, Downey said. The nurse said corrective service officers. The officer said the nurse raised a concern that Dungay eating the biscuits in his cell could affect his already high blood sugar levels, the court heard. Officers spoke to Dungay and asked him to stop. They suggest that Mr. Dungay became angry and stated in unequivocal terms that they were his biscuits and he would do what he wanted, Downey said. It appears that Mr. Dungay then began to stuff the biscuits into his mouth. It was then the Immediate Action Team, the IAT, a group of officers specifically trained to respond to security and emergency situations were called, the court heard. Footage of the incident recorded on a handheld camera showed the men barreling into the cell at around 2:40 p.m., a riot shield at the front and pushing Dungay across the room and onto the bed where they held him down. The officers, who cannot be named for legal reasons and have been de-identified in the footage of the court, then moved Dungay to a different cell. He was heard saying repeatedly, "I can't breathe," while officers told him to stop resisting. The officers observed Mr. Dungay's breathing and reassured him that because he was talking and he was breathing, Dowling says. Once in the second cell, a nurse could be seen injecting Dungay with sedative. He then became unresponsive and could not be revived, the court heard. At around 3:42 p.m., after receiving CPR, he was pronounced dead. David Evenden, acting for Leota Dungay, and other maternal relatives said the family want answers about why Dungay had been moved to a different cell and why the IAT had been used at all. The family wanted to know why couldn't they have just done nothing, Evenden said. The family cannot understand why the officers continued to do what they were doing despite David having been shouting out from the time he was first restrained that he couldn't breathe. Outside court, Dungay's family had a smoking ceremony and held up signs calling for justice. His young nephew Paul told a waiting media pack that the traumatic loss would stay with him for the rest of his life. No parent, no mother should have to sit there and watch a loved one behind the bars of the justice system die at the hands of corrective officers. He said, adding that he wanted the inquest to hold the officers involved accountable. Hawk Newsom, a New York representative of the Black Lives Matter movement, said he saw the same excuse from a blue uniform in Australia that he did in the United States. It's the same story, different soil, he said. It's the same thing from Long Bay to the USA. In Sydney, his name is David Dungay. In New York, his name will be Eric Gardner. Eric Gardner called for his life 11 times. David Dungay called for his life 12 times. These eerie similarities cannot go ignored. The inquest will canvass a number of issues, including the decision to involve the IAT and move Dungay to a different cell. There is evidence that in the past where there were difficulties in dealing with Mr. Dungay, particularly in relation to his blood sugar levels, the Justice Health nurses of other Aboriginal inmates and an Aboriginal delegate were able to speak to him and calm him down, Dowling says. Whether that was an option that should have been tried on 29 December 2015 will be explored in the course of the evidence. It will also look at whether Dungay should have been injected with sedative and whether it was done safely, as well as the way he was restrained. The cause of death was ruled unclear in an autopsy report, but the inquest will hear evidence he suffered a cardiac arrest from being held down. Dowling said people have been previously died from being restrained face down, also known as positional asphyxia. The inquest will hear that 5 out of 6 officers were restrained. Dungay were unaware of the risk of positive asphyxia, he said. The inquest will also hear evidence that Dungay received substantial CPR from Justice Health staff that was incompatible with survival and lost whatever chance he might have had at being resuscitated, Downing says. Wow. Let me start off with this. And even though it happened in 2015, that it doesn't matter what soil you live in. It doesn't matter if you live in Australia or the United States of America. this happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. And it seems to me that he basically, just like the Eric Gardner case, same scenario when Eric Gardner was choked to death in New York. I mean, in Staten Island at the time, and he said the exact same thing. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And now you have this guy right here, David Dungay, who's way younger than Eric Gardner, by the way, said the exact same thing. He was in prison in Australia. Said the exact same thing. I can't breathe when he died. So, Lions Den, what is your point? The point is that no matter what country you live in, you can live in Australia, you can live in France, you can live in Germany, you can live in Italy, you can live here in the United States or South America. The treatment is similar. It's just the same. You know, when police officers or when correctional officers did what they did, you know, it's killing minorities across the world. The same tactic, the same old thing. And, you know, my thoughts and prayers goes to, you know, David Dungay's family. And even though it happened 3 years ago, which is in 2015, which is 3 years ago. But still, if it happens here in the United States, it can happen around the world. So we definitely need to seek justice in this young man's death. And he was 26 at the time he died. And he would have been 29 this year. So what do you guys think? Tell me what you think about this story. Share this story. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my reaction channel. And subscribe to my Black Johnson channel for any more news and commentary. And with that being said, this is Lions Den signing off. Deuces.